Okay, great morning, everyone. Namaste. Welcome. I thought this morning I would read a little bit out of the Tripura Rahasya. Like I said, this was Ramana's favorite text. And to dispel some of this notion, that I've talked about so many times in moksha, liberation, realization, full liberation, okay? Now, there are 3 different degrees of jnani, those that have gained that wisdom of the absolute, okay? But a Jivan Mukti, Jivan Mukti person is the one that is within that thoughtless state, or in an ongoing sahaj. Nirvikalpa samadhi is sahaj nirvikalpa, okay? Effortless, sahaj. You have to be in the effortless samadhi. And what's a samadhi? Samadhi is without thought. Now, the thing I get all the time is, well, if you're without thought, then you can't think. You can't, how you speak, how do you this, how do you that? Well, you do, okay? You do. So, I'm going to read this to dispel that notion of the naysayers that say that's impossible. And this is some of the problem I have with the satsang sellers. They say that they are realized, they say they're fully realized, and yet when they talk about thoughts, I just ignore those. You just ignore them. You pay attention to it. Yeah, there are thoughts, but you just don't pay attention. Well, no, that's not moksha. That's not a Jivan Mukti. Maybe they have gyan, they have some wisdom because they've experienced numerous samadhis. Maybe it's a samadhi ongoing by effort. They're holding on to it, okay? And I think that that's what most of the satsang sellers are doing. They're holding on to these samadhis by effort. Okay, so we're going to do the Tripura Rahasya here. You can check it out for yourself, the 18th chapter, and I'm starting at verse 117, okay? Therefore, I tell you that mind is no other than consciousness. The difference lies in the fact that the mind is restless and the self is always peaceful. Realization of the self subdues the restless mind, which is the dynamic aspect of consciousness, the moving aspect. In true realization of the self, that ends, okay? That subsides, that quiets. On this being subdued, there gleams out of the peace-filled, perfect, intelligent bliss, which is synonymous with emancipation. So like I say, when you get to that point, the inner part is still. It doesn't matter what it looks like the body is doing or what the persona appears to be to people. Inside is that core of undifferentiated bliss, that core of stillness that remains, okay? Let's go forward. Be assured of this. Do not think that an interlude of blankness or veil of nescience will supervene after the cessation of thought. So again, this addresses those that say, well, if you don't have thoughts, you can't act, you can't do anything. You're going to be in blank. You're going to be in, not knowing anything. Okay, well, that's not true. It says, don't think that there is no factor as blankness or veil of nescience that covers it over. It is simply a figment of the imagination that would occur, okay? Okay, so we continue on. If in a daydream a man imagines himself taken, harassed, and beaten by an enemy, he will suffer from the effects until and unless he dismisses the daydream. Will he continue to be bound by the enemy after the dream is dismissed with the enemy and his blows? So it is with the veil of nescience. That's why it's said it's like awakening from a dream. You have to dream at night, you wake up, it's gone. Same thing with realization. The world is a projection of mind and thought. When one dismantles into the absolute, one awakens, and this is like another dream state that come and gone, okay? The attachment to body form as a persona, that is dispelled, that's gone, okay? There's no more of that illusion that remains, okay? The mind stills. One is in direct cognition, okay, without occluding thoughts any longer. So let's continue forward. O Rama, even from the very beginning, there has really been no bondage or tie to the cycle of births and deaths. Only do not be deluded by identifying yourself with insentient matter, but inquire, what is this bondage? And that's it. You have to sit there and watch the mind. See what's real, what's unreal. Watch how it affects the body, how the mind. If you go into anger, what happens? There's a flush of adrenaline. It goes through the body. You attach to that, okay? And make it something real. Make it something that you're fighting against, okay? So let's continue forward. The strongest fetter is the certainty that one is bound. It is as false as the fearful hallucinations of a frightened child. You know, as a child, you think the boogeyman is in the closet. Oh my God, scared to death to go look and open the closet and see there's nothing there. Okay? It's like that. Attachment to body form, thinking that it's genuine, that that's what you are, this vehicle for experience in this plane, causes one's bondage. Okay? So let's go forward. Even the best of men cannot find release by any amount of efforts unless their sense of bondage is destroyed. What is this bondage? How can the pure, uncontaminated absolute self be shackled by what looks like images in the mirror of the self? To imagine that the self is shackled by mental projections is to imagine that the fire reflected in a mirror can burn it. There's absolutely no bondage beyond the foolish certainty that you are bound and the difference of entity created by mind. And that's what I've continued to say. The only thing one needs to be liberated from is the mental spin, okay, that continues to keep people on this wheel of suffering, okay. So until these two blemishes are washed away by the holy waters of investigation into the self, neither I, nor Brahma, the Creator, nor Vishnu, nor Shiva, nor even Tripura, the goddess of wisdom, can help that person to be emancipated. Okay? You have to get it yourself, and it only comes by direct cognition, and direct cognition only comes by doing the practices, by examining the mind, the process of neti, not this, not this, not this, until one comes to the root and pulls that out. Okay? Let's go forward. Therefore, Rama, surmount these two hurdles and remain eternally happy. The mind will shine as the self if the mind be denuded, okay, done away with of those thoughts now crowding it. Okay, and then all sense of duality will cease to exist. So let me say this again. The mind will shine as the self If the mind is denuded, gotten rid of the thoughts now crowding it, and then all sense of duality will cease to exist. So Advaita is there when there are no thoughts. Okay? When one is that pure consciousness, pure awareness, without any objective occlusions. Okay, let's continue forward. Mind is nothing but sectional knowledge, and I want to say here, sectional knowledge, this is the, not knowledge of the absolute, this is like objective knowledge. Mind is nothing but sectional, objective knowledge, knowledge of objects, of duality, caught in the spin of duality, as this and that. Eliminate such, and then pure knowledge will alone remain. This is the self. So again, once you get rid of those objective thoughts, once that dispels, dismantles, what remains is that perfection, that self-knowledge. Sahaj Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the Sahaj Samadhi, the effortless Samadhi. That's why people say, they ask me, oh, you're meditating and this and that. Why? Meditation is stilling the mind. When you have no thoughts, when there is no mind of thoughts, of objective occlusions that remain, you are always in basically meditation. That's why it's called effortless. For me to sit and close my eyes, it's the same if my eyes are open or closed, okay? It's meditation. It's stilled. So I said, no matter what's going on around me, no matter what happens, I could be angry with a situation. The persona has still those things where you watch. And that's another thing you should get into in one of these lessons. Well, if you are a realized being, then you need to be XYZ, categorized. You will do this. That's not true. That's not true. Okay? Whatever persona the person had, way of reacting in the world, it will continue to be the same. Okay? So you can't pigeonhole and say that with realization, all of a sudden they're going to have a totally different appearance to people in the world. Okay? So I'll get into that. That's also addressed in this. And I think this is why this was one of Ramana's very favorite texts. Now, the one I'm reading this is put out by Ramana's, the ashram over there in Tiruvannamalai. Okay, they put this one out. This is their translation. Okay. So let's continue forward. Even after the true state of affairs is known and the hallucination of a snake dismissed, there is still the reality of the rope, which contains the potentiality of the reoccurrence of the same hallucination in the same person or in others. The danger is always there until the rope is cognized to be in and of the self. Okay? So again, it's not enough to have an aha moment like these people say, all I have to do is say I'm the self. All I have to do is rationalize it to myself and I'll be in moksha, I'll be free. Okay? And that's what the satsang sellers want to try to get you. I'm already that. There's nowhere to go. There's nothing to get. I'm already that. And people are still in suffering. The mind is still raging. It's still going. So no, they are not in moksha. No, they are not free. No, they are not getting enlightened by just listening to these discourses. Maybe they will have some motion of movement of quietude for a time, but it's not going to be sustained. It's not going to be true liberation. You have to actually do the work, do the practice in order to have the awakening. Okay, so let's continue forward. Then objectivity totally ceases and pure knowledge alone remains. There is thus a complete annihilation of duality. In other words, there is a shift of consciousness that occurs. The eyes may register objects, okay? If I'm looking out, yes, the eyes are registering a world of duality, but the consciousness is not be fooled by that any longer. The consciousness rests within that singular is. And that's why I have a difficulty with the word oneness. Oneness is sort of like one, but not really one. Okay? Well, the mind that again, deconstructs into that pure knowledge is not sort of like one. It is singular. It is why they say that it's, what is the one that is always said? It'll come to me in a while. But it's not saying that absolute is one. Because you can't categorize it as one. Why can't you categorize it even as one? Because one can be subdivided. The absolute is never truly subdivided. There is only an appearance of it when you have an objective mind. Okay? It's like the sunlight beam, and you have this thing that subdivides it into colors. Well, in essence, it's still only that singular light, even though now it's projected out and it is appearing to be subdivided into different colors depending on the rate of speed of vibration of that, okay? So it's basically that same thing. It's not one. The absolute is the zero, okay? The absolute is the zero. It can never be subdivided. Okay, so let's continue forward. The sense of duality persists because there is the conviction of the purposefulness of the objective world. But such purposefulness and even durability is experienced even in dreams. The difference between dreams and the wakeful state lies in the fact that in the waking state, the dream is determined to be false, whereas in the dream, the waking state is not so determined. Therefore, the waking state is universally taken to be real, but this is wrong. For, do you not experience the same extent of permanency and purposefulness in dreams as in the wakeful state? Okay. Wakeful consciousness does not intervene in dreams, nor does dream consciousness intervene in the wakeful state, while the two factors, enduring nature and purposefulness, are common to both. Examine your past dreams and past waking experiences in the light of these facts and see for yourself. Again, note the appearance of reality in magical phenomena and the seemingly purposeful actions of magical creations. Does reality rest on the slender basis of such appearances? The confusion is due to want of discrimination between the real and the unreal among ignorant folk. Ignorantly, indeed, do they say that the wakeful universe is real. Okay. So anyway, I'm going to leave this here. Again, one only gets to realization by examining the mind. Okay. And what Kundalini does, Kundalini is consciousness. It awakens and it brings up all your fears. It brings up all of the things that you have held on to lifetimes to be challenged. It puts it in your face where you can't get away from it. Okay. So that's the benefit of Kundalini. It's there 24/7 to challenge you on all your levels of belief systems. Okay. And you have to sit and look at these things, watch the mind, go into witness state, see your actions, and dispel these notions. Okay. So I'm going to leave this here. Again, the only true liberation of becoming a Jivan Mukti is when the mind stills, when the occluding thoughts and visualizations and pictures of the mind have ended. Okay. And it doesn't mean that one is unable to function in the world. Contrary to what those who want to try to dismiss what has been said here for many years. Okay, that's not the reality. The reality is once the thought processes have ended, okay, then there's only pure seeing, pure cognition, pure knowledge, pure unadulterated being within the self. That divine is. So even though it has the appearance, you see a Jivan Mukti acting in the world, and you want to take them to be whatever you see, like here you see an older woman, white woman, what can they know? Okay? Don't be befooled. Or thinking that it can only be gotten by somebody in India. It has to be a male, has to be sitting there, it has to be, wearing robes, it has to be, no, it's of consciousness. It has nothing to do with an outer form. And the way that persona, the prarabdha karma, is continuing to play out, okay, does not mean that there is something other going on in consciousness. Okay. Now, one Jivan Mukti will be able to tell another one. Okay. I get people all the time, how can you tell? You're talking about these gurus. Well, because I can see their mind is still running. If their mind is still running, they're not a Jivan Mukti. They're not a fully realized being. Maybe they have had, again, like I said, maybe some of them have had very deep experiences. They're holding on to it with effort, but they are not a liberated being. Okay? If they're saying, yeah, the thoughts, but I put them on the back burner, I don't pay attention, then they're holding on to it with effort. You have ones like Eckhart Tolle, who I've seen in Rishikesh. He was talking when I was there, and he said directly, he has no interaction with people when he's not speaking satsang because he starts wearing the hat, again, of duality. He's holding it with effort. He is not a truly liberated being. Okay? He says directly, heard him directly with my own ears, that he starts wearing these hats in duality of all these other things. Okay? It's not truly liberated. It's not moksha. He's not in this steady. He holds it with effort. Okay, so there's a difference in that. When it's true Jivan Mukti, liberated while in life, and that's very rare. Okay, it's very rare. It doesn't mean that they're not liberated. They will be liberated at death. Once they've passed out of the physical form, then he will go on to full liberation. Okay, and I think it's going to be that way for a lot of the satsang sellers that are holding things with effort. Okay, that when they pass out of the physical form, at that point, the attachment to form, attachment to dualistic mental spin will be cut. Okay, then they will go forward to be fully liberated. Okay, so and ones, like I said, like Nityananda, are just totally bogus. Totally bogus. Okay, and what he says bears no resemblance to Advaita, to being a liberated being by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm going to leave this here. I hope somebody has gotten something from it. Hope everyone continues their path. If you are on the path to liberation, continue. Again, take the time to sit and observe the mind, neti, not this, not this, not this. Things that come up to occlude. Watch how the mind affects the body. Okay? Watch, where do the thoughts come and go from? Where do they go to when they leave? Where did they go to? What reality do they have? These are the things to question deeply, to be able to start to cut those threads that keep you bound. Okay? So I'm going to leave this here. Thanks for tuning in. See you online. Aho and namaste. Have a good day, everyone.